Hey there, welcome back to Two No Stories. Hope you're doing great today. Let's jump right into the story. Nathan Carter pulled into his driveway, his truck rolling to a slow stop as the warm glow of the porch light flickered through the dusk. The house stood tall and proud, a 5,000-square-foot masterpiece of modern architecture that he had built with his own two hands. He had poured years into his construction business, working long hours, sacrificing weekends, and missing vacations so that he and his wife, Emily, could have the kind of life most people only dreamed of. But dreams had a funny way of turning into nightmares when you weren't looking. Nathan sat in the driver's seat for a moment, gripping the wheel as a strange feeling twisted in his gut. Lately, something had felt off, a shift in the air, subtle but impossible to ignore. Emily had been acting differently. She had always been busy, always driven, always ambitious. That was one of the things that had drawn him to her in the first place, her relentless pursuit of success. But lately, there was something else. She was distant, constantly on her phone, disappearing into work meetings that stretched into late nights. Nathan exhaled slowly. Maybe he was overthinking it. Maybe the long hours, the constant stress of running a business were just getting to him. But deep down, he knew better. Nathan walked into the house, dropping his keys onto the marble counter. The place was eerily quiet, the air thick with something unspoken. "Emily," he called out. A few seconds later, she appeared at the top of the stairs, dressed in a sleek black cocktail dress, her blonde hair falling in perfect waves over her shoulders. She looked stunning, as she always did, but there was something off about her tonight. Her eyes flickered with something unreadable as she made her way down the stairs. "Hey, you're home early." Nathan raised an eyebrow. "It's 9:30. She hesitated for just a second before flashing him a quick smile. "Yeah, I guess I lost track of time. I had a late showing with a client." Nathan nodded, keeping his expression neutral. "A client, huh?" Emily walked past him into the kitchen, pouring herself a glass of wine, avoiding his gaze. "Yeah, a high-profile deal. I needed to be there in person." Nathan leaned against the counter, studying her. "Which property?" She froze, just for a second. Then she took a slow sip of her wine before answering. "The one on Westlake Drive." Bullshit. Nathan knew every listing Emily had. They had discussed her properties over dinner, late at night before bed, during lazy Sundays when they had nothing else to talk about. The house on Westlake Drive had gone under contract last week, but he didn't call her out. Not yet. Instead, he just nodded. "Hope it went well." Emily relaxed, the tension in her shoulders easing. She had no idea that he already knew she was lying. Over the next few weeks, Nathan paid closer attention. Emily's phone was always face down, vibrating with late-night messages she never answered in front of him. She started staying out later, claiming she had networking events, business meetings, and last-minute showings. She changed her perfume. She bought new lingerie, but Nathan never saw her wear it. And then there was the black car. Nathan had seen it parked down the street from their house more than once, engine idling, headlights off. He had noticed it at least 3 times now, each time when Emily had just arrived home late. The first time, he had brushed it off as a coincidence. The second time, he had felt a flicker of suspicion. The third time, he knew. Emily was hiding something. One night, Nathan was working late in his home office when he overheard Emily's voice from the hallway. It was low, hushed, the kind of voice someone used when they didn't want to be overheard. He got up, moving quietly toward the door, stopping just before she reached the bedroom. "I miss you too," she was saying, her voice almost a whisper. Nathan felt his pulse slow. "You know I can't just leave," she continued. "Not yet. It has to be the right time." Silence. Then a soft laugh. "You're so bad," she said playfully. "Okay, one more time before I hang up." Nathan stood frozen, the words hitting him like a brick wall. She was talking to someone else. She was talking to him, the mystery man. The reason she had been acting strange, lying to his face, slipping out late at night. Nathan felt the room tilt slightly, a rush of cold fury washing over him. Emily hung up and walked into the bedroom, not noticing him standing just outside. He turned and walked back into his office, shutting the door behind him, his mind racing. He could confront her. He could yell, demand answers, throw accusations in her face. But what would that accomplish? She would deny it. She would call him paranoid. She would try to manipulate the situation, spin it so that she was the victim and he was the insecure, overreacting husband. Number Nathan wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. He was going to make her pay, but not with words, with actions, with silence, with a plan. The next morning, Emily acted like nothing had happened. She kissed Nathan on the cheek, grabbed her coffee and left for work, completely unaware that her husband had heard everything. Nathan watched her leave, his mind already moving 100 miles per hour. He picked up his phone and dialed. Jake answered on the second ring. "Hey man, what's up?" "I need you to do something for me," Nathan said, his voice calm. There was a pause. Then Jake exhaled sharply. "Emily?" Nathan smiled grimly. "Yeah." Jake sighed. "All right, tell me what you need." Nathan leaned back in his chair, his heart no longer pounding. He felt nothing now. Emily had spent months lying to him. She thought she was so careful. She thought he was blind. She thought she had already won. But what she didn't know? Nathan had just made his first move. And when he was done, she wouldn't even see it coming. Nathan Carter sat in his office, staring at the empty black screen of his computer. The room was silent except for the distant hum of traffic outside and the occasional ticking of the wall clock. His hands were steepled together, his mind calculating the next move. He had spent years mastering the art of strategy, building his construction empire, negotiating million-dollar contracts, and navigating the brutal world of business. But this wasn't just business. This was war. Emily had no idea that he was on to her. She believed she was still in control, still spinning her lies effortlessly. But she had underestimated him. She had mistaken his silence for ignorance. And now he was about to rip her world apart without even raising his voice. That morning, as she kissed him goodbye and walked out the door, he knew where she was really going. And today, he was going to prove it. Nathan had always trusted his instincts, and now they were screaming at him. Emily had been careful, too careful. She was strategic in her deception, but he had been watching. He had been waiting. He picked up his phone and dialed. "Jake," he said as soon as his best friend answered. Jake Foster, an Austin PD officer, had known Nathan since college. They had built their lives side by side, and if there was one person Nathan trusted, it was him. "You want me to dig into something?" Jake asked, already knowing the answer. Nathan exhaled. "I need you to run a plate. A black Audi that's been parked down the street for weeks. Always shows up when Emily comes home late." There was a pause. Then Jake's voice lowered. "Send me the plate number." Nathan walked outside and snapped a picture of the car that had just pulled away after dropping Emily off. He sent it over. Jake responded in minutes. "Car is registered to Brian Adams. Developer. Married." Nathan's jaw clenched. He had suspected Emily was cheating, but now he had a name, and he was about to learn everything there was to know about Brian Adams. Nathan wasn't the kind of man to make decisions without evidence. He needed undeniable proof, something Emily wouldn't be able to talk her way out of. By noon, he was sitting in a small, unmarked office in downtown Austin, across from Tom Grayson, a former FBI investigator turned private detective. "You need proof of an affair?" Tom asked, leaning back in his chair. Nathan slid a thick envelope across the desk. "Everything I know so far. I need more." Tom flipped through the papers, nodding. "Give me a week." Nathan smirked. "You have 3 days." Tom grinned. "I like a challenge." 3 days later, Nathan sat in his office as Tom placed a USB drive on the desk. "It's all here," Tom said. "Hotel receipts, photos, text message logs. Your wife and Bryan Adams have been seeing each other for at least 5 months." Nathan said nothing as he picked up the USB and plugged it into his laptop. His stomach tightened as images flashed across the screen. Emily and Bryan entering a luxury hotel together. Emily laughing in the passenger seat of Bryan's car. Emily sending texts. "I can't wait to see you again." Nathan has no clue. "I miss you, babe." Nathan's fingers curled into a fist. She had lied to his face, over and over again, and she had mocked him while doing it. She thought he was blind. But now he saw everything. That evening, Nathan waited. He sat at the dining table, sipping his whiskey, listening for the familiar sound of Emily's heels clicking against the hardwood floor. At exactly 10:32 p.m., the front door swung open. Emily walked in, dressed in a fitted black dress, her hair tousled in perfect waves. She looked too put together for someone who had just spent the night working. Nathan set his glass down. "You're late." Emily hesitated for a second before giving him a tired smile. "Yeah, sorry, the showing ran late." Nathan tilted his head, studying her. She was so damn confident in her lie. "The one on Westlake?" he asked casually. Emily blinked, caught off guard. Yeah, the Westlake property." Nathan smirked. "You mean the one that closed 2 weeks ago?" The color drained from Emily's face. For a moment she stood frozen, caught. Then she did what cheaters always do. She doubled down. "Maybe I mixed up the listings," she said quickly, forcing a laugh. "You know how crazy my schedule is." Nathan nodded slowly. "Yeah, crazy enough to have you checking into hotels with Bryan Adams?" Emily's breath hitched. Her lips parted slightly, her eyes darting around as if searching for an escape. "Nathan, He leaned forward, his voice deadly calm. "I know everything, Emily." Silence. A long, suffocating silence. And then Emily made her second mistake. She didn't apologize. She didn't break down. Instead, she rolled her eyes. "Nathan, don't be dramatic," she said, shaking her head. "It's not like I was going to leave you." Nathan stared at her, his pulse slow and controlled. "You don't get it, do you?" Emily crossed her arms. "Nathan, we've been together for years. You're really going to throw that away over one mistake?" Nathan chuckled. She really thought she was still in control. "One mistake?" He pulled out his phone and swiped to an image. Emily kissing Bryan outside the hotel. "That's not a mistake, Emily. That's a choice." She opened her mouth, but he cut her off. "You made your choice. Now let me show you mine." Emily's confidence wavered. "Nathan, what do you mean?" He leaned back, taking a slow sip of his whiskey. "You'll see, soon enough." Nathan stood and walked past her, heading toward the bedroom. Emily turned to follow him, but he shut the door in her face. She stood in the hallway, fists clenched, her heart pounding. For the first time, she felt it. The shift, the power slipping away from her. Nathan wasn't the clueless, obedient husband she had painted him to be. He had been watching, waiting, calculating. And now, he was about to burn it all down. Nathan Carter had always believed that patience was a man's greatest weapon. The moment he confirmed Emily's betrayal, he could have confronted her, screamed, thrown things, or demanded explanations. But what would that have accomplished? Nothing. Cheaters never admit guilt unless they're cornered. Even then, they lie, deflect, and manipulate. No, Emily wasn't going to get an argument. She was going to get a reckoning. And Nathan would deliver it silently, methodically, and without an ounce of emotion. The first thing Nathan did was secure his assets. Emily had gotten comfortable relying on their joint accounts, using his credit to fund her expensive lifestyle. But she was about to learn the hard way that her safety net was gone. That morning, he made 3 crucial moves. He transferred all liquid assets into his private trust. He closed all joint credit cards and removed Emily's name from their accounts. He met with his lawyer to initiate divorce proceedings, on his terms. By noon, Emily's financial access had been cut off. Nathan didn't say a word, and he waited. That evening, as they sat at opposite ends of the dinner table, Emily casually reached for her phone and placed an order for new designer shoes. A few moments later, she frowned, refreshing the page. "That's weird," she muttered. "My card got declined." Nathan took a sip of his whiskey, not even looking up. Strange. Emily clicked through her banking app, her expression shifting from mild confusion to full-blown panic. "Nathan," she said sharply, "our accounts are empty. What's going on?" He finally met her gaze, a small smirk forming. "Oh, that? I moved the money. Thought it was best to protect my assets." Emily's breath hitched. "Protect your assets? From me?" Nathan tilted his head. "Why? You planning on taking something that isn't yours?" She stared at him, the realization sinking in. For the first time, she understood. He knew. And this was just the beginning. Emily prided herself on appearances. Their luxurious 5,000-square-foot home was her prized possession. It was where she hosted real estate clients, where she entertained, where she pretended to be the picture-perfect wife. So Nathan took that away, too. A few days after cutting off her financial access, he removed her name from the house deed. It had always been in his name. Now it was legally untouchable. He also changed the locks. Emily came home one evening after another late meeting to find that her key no longer worked. Frustrated, she rang the doorbell, pounding on the door. Nathan opened it, leaning against the frame with a relaxed smirk. "Problem?" Emily's face was red with fury. "My key isn't working." Nathan took a slow sip from his beer. "Yeah, I changed the locks. Thought it was time for some upgrades." Emily gasped. "You can't just lock me out of my own home?" Nathan's eyes gleamed. "It's not your home anymore." She opened her mouth to argue, but he held up an envelope and pressed it into her hands. She stared at it, confused. "Go ahead," he said. "Open it." With shaky fingers, Emily ripped the envelope open. Inside, divorce papers, filed, signed, with a settlement that left her with absolutely nothing. She gasped. "Nathan, please." He stepped back inside and shut the door in her face. While Emily was reeling from being cut off financially and locked out of the house, Nathan moved on to his next phase, destroying her socially and professionally. He had spent years helping build her career, supporting her in the competitive real estate world. He had introduced her to high-end clients, wealthy investors, and business contacts. And now, he was about to take it all away. Nathan called Michelle Adams, Brian's wife. "Michelle," he said, his voice calm, "I have something you might want to see." He sent her everything, the texts, the photos, the receipts. An hour later, Michelle responded, "Thank you. He's about to regret everything." The next morning, news spread like wildfire in the local business world. Michelle had filed for divorce immediately, citing infidelity and financial misconduct. Then, at a high-profile real estate networking event, Nathan made his next move. The room was packed with developers, brokers, and investors, the people who controlled Emily's career. And just as Emily was preparing to give a speech, every single person in attendance received an email, sent anonymously, with all the proof of her affair. Within seconds, whispers spread across the room. Emily stood at the podium, her face pale as she noticed the sudden shift in energy. People were looking at their phones, then looking at her. She grabbed her phone, her hands shaking as she opened her inbox. She read the email. Then she saw the attachments. Her heart stopped. She turned, her eyes locking onto Nathan, who stood at the back of the room, watching. She knew. She had just lost everything. That night, Emily showed up at the house banging on the door. Nathan opened it, arms crossed. "You did this," she hissed, eyes red with rage. He raised an eyebrow. "Did what?" "You ruined my life," she screamed. "My job, my money, my reputation." Nathan chuckled. "No, Emily, you did that. I just made sure everyone saw the truth." She burst into tears, dropping to her knees. "Nathan, please, I made a mistake." Nathan's expression didn't change. "A mistake?" "No, Emily. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk. You made a choice, and now you get to live with it." She reached for him, but he stepped back. "Goodbye, Emily." Then, without another word, he shut the door. She stood there, sobbing on the front porch of the house she once ruled over, but no longer had a place in. Nathan walked back inside, grabbing a beer from the fridge. For the first time in months, he felt free. Emily had played her game. But she had forgotten one thing. Nathan had been playing all along, and in the end, he won. Emily Carter had always thought of herself as untouchable. She had built her career in high-end real estate, surrounded herself with the right people, and cultivated an image of a powerful, successful woman. She had convinced herself that Nathan was just a stepping stone, a convenient husband, a financial safety net, someone who would always be there no matter what. But now she was watching everything slip through her fingers. Her job, her reputation, her home, her power. And the worst part, she couldn't stop it. Emily sat in the conference room at her brokerage firm, her heart pounding as she faced her boss, the senior partners, and the firm's legal counsel. "You know why we called this meeting," her boss said, his voice colder than she had ever heard it. She swallowed, forcing a smile. "I assume it's about the rumors. I can explain." Her boss slid a manila folder across the table. "It's not rumors, Emily. It's evidence." Her breath caught as she opened the folder. Inside were printed screenshots of her texts, timestamps of hotel reservations, and financial statements linking her and Brian Adams. Emily's throat went dry. "We received this from an anonymous source," her boss continued, "but after reviewing it, we found enough financial discrepancies in your transactions to warrant an internal audit." She clenched her fists under the table. Nathan. She had always been 2 steps ahead of everyone, but somehow her husband had outmaneuvered her. "I'm being set up," she said quickly, trying to control the panic rising in her chest. Her boss didn't react. "We've already made our decision." The firm's attorney slid another document across the table, a termination letter. "We expect you to clean out your office by the end of the day," her boss said, standing up. "Your career with us is over." Emily stared at the paper, unable to breathe. She had worked for years to build her reputation in the luxury real estate world. Now, it was gone in an instant. That night, Emily walked into an exclusive networking event at the Austin Grand Hotel, hoping to do damage control. She wore her best designer dress, held her head high, and told herself that she could fix this. But the moment she stepped inside, she knew something was wrong. People whispered. Eyes flickered toward her, then away. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through her email notifications. Then she saw it. An anonymous email had been sent to everyone in her professional network. Subject: The truth about Emily Carter. Her hands shook as she clicked it. Inside were her texts with Brian, her financial fraud details, and the evidence from her real estate firm's audit. Her stomach dropped. This wasn't just an affair scandal. This was a full-blown career-ending disaster. She turned toward the bar, desperately needing a drink, only to lock eyes with Nathan. He was leaning against the counter, a glass of whiskey in hand, watching her with a calm, satisfied smirk. Her blood went cold. "You!" she hissed, storming over to him. "You did this." Nathan took a slow sip of his drink, completely unfazed. "Did what?" "You ruined my career," she spat. "You ruined my life." Nathan tilted his head, feigning innocence. "No, Emily, you did that. I just made sure everyone saw the truth." Her hands trembled. "You're going to regret this." Nathan chuckled. "You know what I regret? Not seeing through you sooner." Emily's face twisted with fury. "I will fix this." Nathan raised an eyebrow. "How, exactly?" "Everyone here knows who you really are now." She opened her mouth to argue, but the whispers around her were growing louder. People were looking at their phones, then back at her. Then, as if the night couldn't get worse, her phone buzzed again. An email from her bank. Her personal accounts had been frozen pending investigation. Nathan had already cut her off financially. Now, he had made sure she couldn't recover. Across town, Brian Adams was dealing with his own personal disaster. After Nathan sent all the evidence to Michelle Adams, she wasted no time in filing for divorce and making sure everyone in Brian's world knew what he had done. His business partners, investors, and clients started pulling out of projects. His name became a stain in the real estate industry. By the end of the week, he was jobless, homeless, and fighting a brutal divorce battle. Michelle had taken the house, the cars, and half his fortune. The man who once thought he had it all was now watching his entire empire collapse. And Nathan was enjoying every second of it. 2 weeks later, Emily stood outside Nathan's penthouse, clutching a bottle of expensive whiskey, the kind he used to love. She had nowhere else to go. She was broke, jobless, and alone. Nathan opened the door, his face unreadable. "Emily," he said, his voice neutral. "What do you want?" She forced a smile, stepping inside. I wanted to talk." He didn't move. "Talk about what?" She swallowed hard. "I made a mistake. I never stopped loving you, Nathan. Maybe we can work things out." Nathan let out a short, bitter laugh. "You think after everything you did we can just go back?" He shook his head. "You don't love me, Emily. You loved the life I gave you, and now that it's gone, you're desperate." Emily's lip trembled. "Please, I just need one more chance." Nathan exhaled slowly. Then, without another word, he stepped aside and motioned toward the elevator. "Goodbye, Emily." Her heart shattered. "Nathan, please." But he closed the door in her face. And just like that, she was out of his life forever. Nathan sat on his balcony that night, looking out over the city. His business was thriving. His personal life had never been better. And as for Emily, she was just a lesson, a cautionary tale. Nathan raised his glass to the sky, toasting to his freedom. He had won, and he had never felt lighter. Nathan Carter stood on the balcony of his new penthouse, watching the golden hues of the setting sun reflect off the Austin skyline. The city was alive, pulsing with energy, but for the first time in a long time, he felt completely at peace. There was no more anger, no more betrayal looming over his head, just the satisfaction of knowing that justice had been served. Emily was gone. Her career, destroyed. Her reputation, ruined. Her bank accounts, frozen. And him? He had won. Nathan smirked, taking a slow sip of his whiskey. He had never wanted this to happen, never imagined that the woman he had once loved would be capable of such cold-hearted deceit. But she had made her choice, and when the time came, he made his. And now, as he stood there, free from the weight of her lies, he knew he would never look back. Across town, Emily sat in a tiny one-bedroom rental, staring at the eviction notice on her kitchen table. Final payment. Due. $2,300. Status. Overdue. Her fingers trembled as she gripped the paper. It had only been a few months since her life fell apart, and yet it felt like a lifetime ago that she had been the queen of Austin real estate, married to a man who adored her, living in a mansion that made people jealous. Now, she had nothing, no job, no money, no Nathan, and no one to turn to. Her friends, the same people she had bragged to about her secret meetings with Brian, had distanced themselves the moment the scandal broke. Her parents, ashamed of the daughter they had raised, barely answered her calls. Brian? He had cut her off completely. The last time she tried to reach out, she received a single text in response. "This was a mistake. Don't contact me again." Emily had lost everything for that man. And now, he wanted nothing to do with her. Her chest tightened as she realized this was her life now. A nobody, drowning in debt, ignored by everyone she once thought mattered. And the worst part? Nathan had never even looked back. While Emily was struggling to hold on to the last scraps of her dignity, Brian Adams was dealing with his own personal disaster. Michelle had taken everything in the divorce, the house, the luxury cars, half of his company. She had leaked their prenup details to the press, exposing him as a cheating husband who had misused company funds for his affair. By the time the dust settled, Brian was drowning in legal battles. Clients were pulling out of business deals, refusing to associate with a man whose name was now synonymous with scandal and corruption. His old investors? Gone. His friends? Silent. One afternoon, he sat in a cheap motel room, staring at the foreclosure notice on his phone. This wasn't supposed to happen. He had been on top of the world. He had controlled everything. And now he was just another failed businessman, abandoned and forgotten. And the man responsible for his downfall? Nathan Carter. Nathan didn't just move on. He leveled up. After finalizing the divorce, he launched his own private real estate investment firm, taking the skills he had once used to help Emily's career and using them to build his own empire. The business took off faster than he expected. With his reputation as an honest, hardworking businessman, clients flocked to him, eager to work with someone they could actually trust. One night, while attending an industry event, he found himself face to face with Michelle Adams. "Well, if it isn't the man of the hour," she said, raising an eyebrow. "I hear congratulations are in order." Nathan chuckled, shaking her hand. "Same to you. I heard you cleaned Brian out pretty well." Michelle smirked. "What can I say?" "You gave me the ammunition, I just pulled the trigger." They clinked glasses. For the first time in months, Nathan realized he was happy, not just because of revenge, not just because of Emily's downfall, but because he had reclaimed his life. One evening, as Nathan was leaving his office, his phone buzzed. He glanced down. A text message. From Emily. For a moment, he considered ignoring it, but then curiosity got the better of him. "Emily. Nathan, please, just talk to me. I need to see you." He sighed, shaking his head. It was always the same. Cheaters never wanted you back. They wanted what you provided. The security, the stability, the comfort of knowing you would always be there. And now that she had lost all of that, she thought she could crawl back. Nathan deleted the message. Then, with zero hesitation, he blocked her number. Emily Parker was nothing more than a lesson, a mistake he had corrected, and he would never make it again. Months later, Nathan sat on a rooftop terrace, a glass of bourbon in hand, watching the city lights twinkle in the distance. Beside him, Olivia Bennett, a woman he had met at a real estate networking event, laughed softly, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "You look different tonight," she observed. Nathan smirked. "Different how?" She studied him for a moment. "Lighter, like you finally let something go." Nathan exhaled, feeling the weight of his past completely disappear. "I guess I have," he admitted. For years he had been trapped in a marriage built on lies. But now, he was free, and he would never let anyone take that from him again. Nathan raised his glass. To new beginnings, to freedom, to never looking back. And as he took a slow sip, he knew. This was just the start. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and comment below, and of course subscribe for more.